Hello, everyone. This is Frank DeFreitas, and welcome to another week of HoloTalk for the week of May 21st, 2000. Welcome back. I was away for a number of weeks, didn't have a chance to update the show. In fact, was only back here in the studio maybe about a few days out of 3 weeks. On the road doing different things, also down Washington, D.C. with the Smithsonian. So we're back here. It's great to be back. Great to have another HoloTalk up. And hopefully, usually HoloTalk ends Memorial Day and is off the summer from Memorial Day through Labor Day. But I'm hoping to maybe be able to continue HoloTalk through the summer. What do you think? Would you like to hear HoloTalk through the summer? Send me an email and let me know. And instead of going off the air Memorial Day, what we'll do is just continue producing shows throughout the summer. I'm going to try and get Michelle Roy in here this week. As many of you are aware, Michelle was with me down at the Smithsonian, at the Hirshhorn specifically, and would like to get her in the studio and do a show on both of our feelings on what it was like to present holography at an art venue. My background with lasers and holography is with science and technology, so it's always interesting when I have the opportunity of going in and doing presentations for people who have an artistic interest in holography as well. And there are differences, and we'd like to do a show to tell you what some of those differences are, some observations we've made, and where we think holography's strong points are with both its science and technology background and also its artistic background as well. Our guest this week is Doris Vila, and I would like to point out before you listen to the show that this was recorded a couple weeks ago before we started out on our road trips, and I haven't had a chance of getting the show up. It's going up now. The only thing is Doris mentions going away to Germany to do some work. And when you hear that, you'll be under the impression that she's leaving for Germany, when in actuality this was recorded earlier and she's back from Germany now. So keep that in mind when you're listening to the interview. So, welcome back again, and let's move on to the interview with Doris Vila. If you'd like to hear HoloTalk continue through the summer, please send me an email. Let me know. If I get enough emails to tell me that you'd like to hear the shows, I'll continue to do them. If not, then we'll say adios and see you in the fall. So here's the interview with Doris Vila. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next week.
Hi, Frank.
Hello, Doris. How are you?
Fine. I wanted to switch to the other phone so I can speak a little bit more freely. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Good. Give me a sec.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, that sounds good.
That sounds okay to you?
Yeah,
Good.
It's a different sound than the other phone, but I think it'll work okay.
Good.
You know, I was on your website, and I've been following a lot of your work through the different publications over the years, like through Holosphere and Wavefront and some of the other ones. And to tell you the truth, after being on your website and seeing all the things that you've done, I'm at a loss at where to even start with you.
Well, that is really sweet. I'm very honored. Yeah. I've been busy.
Yeah. When did you get started in holography?
I started in 1979, and in a way I kind of date how I started much earlier than that from having done work with Littman photography, recreating Littman photographs in provincial Mexico.
Was your background in photography and videography?
Actually, I started drawing. I come from a classic artist background.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, that was how I got started.
What moved you on to holography?
Well, when I was living and working at the University of Veracruz in Mexico, I started working with stereo photography.
Okay.
And a lot of printmaking alternative techniques where we would improvise our own technology. And we'd build our own graphic arts cameras, getting the lenses ground at the local optician, and mix up our own photo filtering emulsions. Starting to sound familiar. You
were involved with a lot of the technology as well.
Yeah, I've always believed that artists have more, can make a much more interesting statement with a medium if they get their hands in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you find, even in the field of holography, that a lot of artists try to stay away from the technology end of it.
Well, it can be distracting, and I really understand and respect artists that want to avoid getting so tech-heavy that they lose sight of like a mental and emotional message that they want to communicate.
Yeah.
I really understand it. It just, with my work and the way I work, I need to be shifting hats all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, I couldn't have made those big holograms without being able to do it myself. I was like directly intervening with the plate all the time. so I needed to understand what diffraction efficiencies had to be in order to get that big and operate with a coherence length, use the spherical aberration as a way to make stories play out at different positions rather than different moments in time.
Is there a reason why you chose to do, I would imagine most, if not all, of your work is white light transmission holograms. Is there a reason for that?
Well, mostly because the transmission hologram allowed me to break scale. I've done some color work and reflection. In fact, one of the biggest compliments I've gotten is, oh my God, your reflection colors look like your transmission colors, because I really got into the tech and how to narrow the band of reconstruction. You know, what a lot of other people have done in reflection, but just have been able to tune it to suit kind of look and feel that my work already has.
What are some of the projects that you would look back on and want to tell to the listeners about?
Gee.
All of them, right?
Yeah, of course.
Which they can see at your website, and we do have a link to Doris' website right on the HoloTalk page. So if you go back on the HoloTalk page and click on the link, it will take you right over to her website, which is just loaded with years' worth of work and papers and research papers and everything.
Yeah, it's really interesting because one of the greatest things for me about being involved in holography has been the number of people, the range of people I've been able to meet, and the kinds of cross-discipline jumping I've been able to do just really gives a lot of room for my imagination, all kinds of technical imagination as well as aesthetic. Yeah, I guess one of the things that has been really fruitful for me in recent years has been combining holography with other electronic media. And it started with a piece in '92 that I was able to do in Germany where I had a hologram of fire in a store window.
Oh, yeah.
And was illuminating it with the live signal of the feet of people passing by. So as they walked by, they saw their own feet at eye level.
Mm-hmm.
And they were walking through the flames, which was, of course, the holographic flames, which could never burn them, but a metaphor for passing through a trial of fire or a proof of purity, and here they were just shoppers.
Wow.
And so I like that a lot, and that gave me a lot of jumping off territory for mixing projected imagery.
When you would mix the media, did you find that you did that more because you felt there were limitations in holography and you were able to move beyond those limitations by mixing other media in?
Yes, very much so. I mean, the presence of the three dimensions of holography made me crave the fourth time. So I really wanted to be able to make that happen and breathe a little life into the three-dimensional form of holography.
You've been teaching as well in the past. Do you still run workshops and things now in New York?
Well, I haven't had any requests for that. Every so often I'm asked to lecture at a school, which I love to do that. I get to indulge my ham side of myself by standing up in front of students and talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have happiest about is that I've been able to get a sense of humor, if I can say that, to infuse my work, because I've had a kind of teasing relationship with science. Science is great, but it just doesn't go quite far enough.
Well, I like a sense of humor.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's so I like talking to groups about that, but I'm not getting a lot of requests for holographic type teaching right now.
Wow, I find that surprising in New York City.
I am too.
You know?
Well, we also have a couple of very talented people, that are, open to Dan Schweitzer's teaching at one school and running his teaching as part of his practice, and goes after that more aggressively. I'm getting more offers for projects and shows, many of them overseas.
Yeah. What's with that?
Well, what are you going to say? I know they used to say a prophet is never recognized in their own land, but I think a prophet is never turned in one's own land. You could make a. I don't understand. I'm going to Germany, in fact, on Friday to finish a major project with children's interactive theater.
I know we should always have a global outlook on everything, but I always feel that we should take more pride in people within the United States that are doing great work, and we don't.
Well, one of the things that happens in New York particularly is the art world is a driving force, and the art world is believe it or not, somewhat conservative in terms of media. And so there was a certain point at which I decided that I was going to keep making work, but I was not going to try to show it in the traditional gallery settings. And once you break out of that mold, even though supposedly the avant-garde is always testing limits, you find that you really have to look to people that respect the cultural tradition. And in the States, the art world is still quite market-driven. So you just have to say, okay, so who's interested? I am really working very hard on getting more things going here in the coming year.
How do you feel women are represented in holography as far as people working in the field compared to other ventures?
Yes, with a little tiny but attached to it.
Okay.
In terms of women artists and male artists, I think there's a nice 50-50 blend. But the women in the raw technical and commercial fields, it's dominated by men again.
Yeah.
But even among the artists, if you were to say, okay, who has or has had their own labs, the women normally use other people's facilities. That's why I say yes, but. I mean, I think if you're, and it's really tough to make gender generalizations.
Yeah.
But the women often, though, have had really innovative use of holography in space, so that they will take and do something with the hologram in the environment it's shown in, or a context for it.
Yeah.
That the men have more gone for a classic approach. And like I said, I'm real cautious about generalizing. I can think of some real notable exceptions on both sides of this fence. But, yeah, I think what women have, well, they may have not been empowered to invest in the tech so much. Certainly in terms of taking aesthetic risks, they've been right out there, if not at the edge.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of admiration for that.
I've been speaking with someone at SPIE. I'm very sorry I can't remember their name right now, but our emails have been going back and forth. They just started a group, Women in Optics, and they're very interested in the holography programs that I put together, especially with the shoebox holography that uses little diode lasers to create holograms. So we're looking to get a few programs started at the educational level to show female school students what's available, not just with holography, but with lasers and photonics in general.
Well, that sounds just terrific, Frank.
Yeah.
I mean, let me know if I can be of any help.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm in the freelance mode. I'm always interested in cooking up schemes.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now, you have your own facilities, right?
Yes, I have a basement, a 1,200 square foot basement with 2 5-foot by 10-foot isolation tables. Next time you come to New York, please come by.
Yes, I'm going to do that. When are you coming back from Germany?
I'll be back May 1st.
Oh, okay. So that's
and I'm actually going to be showing holograms in Mexico, opening the 1st of June. I'm going back to that same place that I used to work.
Why don't you give some information to, because, you know, on the net, we have people that listen from Germany as well. So why don't you give a little information about your work that you're going over for in Germany and also the Mexican show as well?
Great. Yeah, the project in Germany is an interactive children's theater installation at Animax in Bonn, which is an experimental media art group. And they have a interesting space. It's part of a Cineplex. So they're, you know, you can imagine 12 theaters in a Cineplex. 11 of them are showing movies, and the 12th one is having this stage where the children walk into a room, and on either side of them are these 10-foot high by 13 feet long screens. They're like pages of a book, 3 on each side of them, semi-transparent. And they are basically walk into their book ship, and as a group, their interactions are registered, and they pick their way to a journey to a place, and they look for these figures, which are made up all of triangles. And as soon as they act together, these triangles swarm around them in real-time animation, reflecting the group dynamic of the triangles, swarming and flocking in the same way that they move. So it's very interesting on a number of levels.
And it just drives me nuts that you don't see anything like that here.
Well, I hope to be getting a version that can run here.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite so extravagant in the physical, but certainly with all the computer animation, we can do that. And I'm calling it pseudograms, or 2.5D, because it's basically 2D information, but it's being projected onto these layered screens, which as they move, flying in this long, graceful motion as the kids make their way through their adventure.
Wow.
And there's some sort of quasi 3D in the forming of the triangle. It's really great. They scream a vowel, and these figures, could be a monster or a bat or a shark made up out of triangles, and they go, ee, and it flies apart. It's great. And it's a real interesting, I think, because getting a group to work together as a team is the metaphor we're going towards in this century, because we've come out of very hierarchical path. We're coming to work as play as work.
Exactly.
And the team approach where leadership functions are still there, but they rotate in a much different way. And consensus is the way to make a decision rather than arbitrary obeying. I think this is going to be, and especially if you think of the historical implications of asking German children to work as a group with shifting leadership roles, this is a very, very big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I see that.
It's a riot. And so you can link to, there's a shockwave sample of what our game looks like on my website. And
that's a nice website. Do you do that yourself?
Why, thank you. Yes, I did with the help of a student intern. Sure.
Yeah.
Those graphics are mine, and all those little animation clips.
Yeah, I was all over that today.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah, it's big fun. I've had a great time doing it. And, and the web has just been such a resource for us. I've believed since I got involved with holography that we were headed towards an age of energy and information. And the web just proves it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
And very useful to me. Right now I have posted just for my working colleagues a site which is private, but allows them to see the storyboards for the improvements that we're making to the game that I'm going over there to launch.
Yeah, that's a nice aspect of the web as well for collaboration, across distances, work collaboration. Yeah. And then what's coming up in Mexico?
Well, Mexico is, actually, let me see if I can find the site for you for that, but it's in Veracruz, Mexico, every year for the last 9 years, Professor Miguel Famat of the University of Veracruz has hosted what he calls June, the Month of Photography, and it's a statewide series of exhibitions. Last year there were 28 shows around the state of photography, from historic figures to contemporary. And he invited me to be the honored guest this year. So I will be showing a holographic installation of 3 large panels and several smaller works and some projections.
And what is the turnout for the events that you do overseas? Do you find out that it's pretty well packed?
Well, it depends on the place. If you're part of a festival in Berlin, man, you can't keep them out of the door. And in some of the smaller places, it's not so large, but you find that it's a very different attitude there to art. You find people that see your work, and 3, 4, 5 years later they come back to you, say, I saw your work and I want you to come and do something now. Whereas in this country, we're also, soundbite 15 minutes of fame conscious, that if you don't,
if you don't close it right there.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's gotten you and it's moved on.
Yeah.
Whereas I've had people invite me to a festival where they fly me over and sponsor an installation, and they say, we wanted to do this since,
Yeah, I was thinking about the imagery that you were talking about with your installation in Germany, and I was thinking if that were done here, I don't think you could do that without including burgers and fries somehow in that. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you, it's a very different thing.
Yeah.
It's a very different thing. But I'm working on some possibilities, too. I mean, as as computers get faster and more portable.
You want to get your lab up and running in New York now, or is it up and running now?
Well, all the physical equipment is there. Unfortunately, at the moment, my laser's down, as I told you, and this is why I've been talking with you about your diode lasers. I'm very excited about that possibility.
Yeah.
I have 2 big fat lasers, and, both of them need new tubes, and we're talking about thousands of dollars to replace it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think those days are coming to a close.
Well, you know, that would be nice. I've never thought, it just never made sense to me that it should be so painful to work with holography. It's been a very arduous kind of medium to pursue, and I've really believed it had to get simpler.
Well, your work is beautiful. The only time I've had a chance to see your work was at the Museum of Holography in New York. You do very abstract work, and just the way that the layers are on there and the motion and how things interact with one another as you move around the holograms is phenomenal.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I like to think of them as stories that are played out in space as well as time, so that the physical position of the viewer forces them or allows them to make their own discovery sequence. And that's what makes it possible for them to weave a story out of a framework of possibilities. And that's where my teasing relationship with science has come in. I started out in 87, making things where it was charts, maps, and diagrams of pseudoscientific phenomena. So it was a chart of the space-time sex-money continuum. Because space and time are one thing, but we know sex and money fit in there somewhere, too.
Space and time I have a lot of.
Yeah.
Sex and money, I don't know.
You hear what I'm saying. But maybe if you had more money, you'd have more time.
Yeah.
And then you never know.
And if I had more space, I'd have more sex.
That could be. That could be. I don't know. I just say Einstein was partly right. Just needed to expand the emotional horizons a little bit. And some of the others were the diagnosis of an existential headache and the overview of the free guilt economy. There was he said and she said. So those are facing panels. So when the observer stands between them, they have to look or listen to one parent or the other. They're basically the observer child in between the two. So you can see that the physical presence or movement of the person in the space makes a big difference in terms of playing out a story, which is what I think we do with our lives.
It amazes me how artists' minds work, because basically what my brain thinks about is resistors and transistors and chips and how to get diodes to work and how to do this, the technical end of it. And it's fascinating just to listen to what people would do with the technology. I mean, I have creative thought, but nothing like what you're describing.
Well, I think creativity has a million, zillion forms. I think we're all the time creating.
Yeah.
Trying to make sense out of our lives and the world and having some fun with it.
Yeah. Any new projects that you're planning on in the future, something with the Center for the Holographic Arts?
Well, I have a residency there now, and we're in the process of shooting. I'm actually making a new piece with them, which will be the newest holographic piece in a while. So I'm really thrilled about that. I'm delighted with the concept, and that's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to getting my lab up and running, hopefully with some of those diode lasers.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And, just things keep coming up. So keep looking at my website. I'll keep people posted there.
When are you leaving for Germany?
I'm leaving on Friday evening.
This Friday?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll be back May 1st. But they want me to go again in May, and then at the end of May, we go to Mexico. So. Well,
I was thinking, you might be able to listen to the show before you go, but hey, this is the Internet. You're in Germany. You can listen to it in Germany.
That's right.
So what am I thinking?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. When is it on?
It'll go up Sunday night at around 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And then it stays up, as a real audio file 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You just go onto the website and click on the link, and real audio will start, and you can listen to the program anywhere in the world.
HoloWorld.com.
Yeah,
right?
And there's 3 years of programs on there as well. with a lot of different people involved with holography. So if you ever have a chance to sit back with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea when you're home some night, you want to hear what some of the other people have said over the last 3 years,
Oh, that's wonderful.
Go on the archive
Frank,
page.
I congratulate you on what you're doing. I think it's really remarkable.
Yeah, well, you're doing remarkable work, too, so as long as we all keep doing what we're doing, we'll keep moving ahead.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
And give Lillian a kiss from me.
I certainly
And
will.
I'll get a chance to meet both of you once again when I come into New York.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Give a little notice if you can.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're welcome to the lab.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.